"You'll never find out," she whispered behind the bar. That's how the night started. And then her DMs with my fiancé exploded on TikTok for everyone to see. I'm not proud of how long I stayed quiet. I'm just telling you what it felt like to hear that line, with a bass line shaking the floor and ice cracking in a shaker next to my hand. And yes, I froze, and I'm 26, a bartender at an elite club in Miami. Think velvet ropes, strobe lights, and tourists who order Patron because it's the only tequila they recognize. I came here because rent is a joke and tips pay faster than dreams. My vulnerability? I needed the job, badly, and I hated drama after years of customer episodes. My fiancé, Alex, works in tech sales and hates nightlife. We kept our engagement mostly private, ring on a chain under my shirt, so I wouldn't become the girl with a wedding on the schedule board. NNMY boss, Mara, is the kind of manager who knows every rich regular by name and tells barbacks they're family until a spill hits the marble. The first time she said, "It's for your own good," it was about moving me to VIP booths on Saturdays. Better tips, worse boundary lines. She corrected my technique, her hand over my wrist, showing me how to double strain. Cold steel under my palm. Her perfume like grapefruit peel. "You have potential," she said. "Without me, you're nothing in this town." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. And that was the moment I knew something was off. NNTHE symbols in my head started stacking up. My phone face down beside the register, glowing with push alerts I ignored. The tiny shaker charm on my keychain, Alex gave it to me when I got hired, for luck. The way Mara would say I was too sensitive whenever a regular crossed a line. The lighting in the back room was always blue and too cold. The door shut with a soft click that sounded like a warning. I told myself it was just boss romance gossip floating around the industry, the usual forbidden love drama people invent when a manager pays attention to a new hire. It only got worse from there. Mara had a way of texting after shifts. "Great hustle tonight. Proud of you." Then, "You up?" with a winky face. I responded like a professional. "Thumbs up, thanks. Good night." She would corner me in the liquor closet to fix inventory, leaning on the shelf like a casual friend, voice low. "Loyalty is everything here." The bass from the main room bled through the wall. Bottles rattled. "Don't overthink," she said. "You're the kind who overthinks." I wish I'd told her to stop right then. Instead, I kept stacking limes and counting bottles, pretending it was normal. That was my first mistake. One Thursday, Alex showed up with 2 colleagues after a conference. He texted, "We're nearby, thought we'd say hi, quick round." He knows I hate surprise visits during service, but I waved from the well and sent over mezcal margs on the house, Mara's order. Mara crossed the floor like a runway model and greeted them first. "You're with our star," she told Alex, touching his elbow. "She saves my weekends." Her smile was perfect, my stomach wasn't. I felt the chill from the beer fridge on my calves and pretended to polish a jigger. And that's when I realized I'd been placing my trust in the wrong person. At the staff party the next night, Mara made a toast in front of everyone. "Some of us mix better drinks," she said, raising a coupe glass. "And some of us mix better men." Laughter. A busser choked on a chip. I stared at the shaker keychain in my palm and forced a grin. "It was just a joke," she added loudly, eyes on me. My cheeks burned. The DJ switched tracks, neon spilled across the bottles like a spotlight. I wanted to leave. I stayed. It only got louder from there. NNTHAT week. My phone lit up at 12:41 a.m. ADM request from a burner TikTok account. The preview image was a chat screenshot. Dark mode bubbles. My fiancé's name at the top. I almost didn't open it. When I did, I felt the bar top under my fingers, even though I was in bed. It was Mara's voice, in text. Time-stamped to the week I started. "You're fun when she's not watching." Then, "Don't worry, she's too sensitive." There were winks. There were dates I recognized. Nights I closed. Nights Alex claimed he was grabbing an Uber. My throat went dry, and that was the moment I knew I wasn't crazy. The burner account posted a compilation. Blurred names, but not blurred enough if you lived my life. Comments went feral. Classic CEO affair scandal vibes. Someone typed, even though she isn't a CEO. Power imbalance 101. Views climbed while I reread timestamps. I could smell citrus on my hands from cutting wedges earlier, and hated that detail for being so normal. A security guard from my club, Jay, texted, "You okay? Saw a thing. Call me." I stared at the shaker charm, cool against my skin. It felt like the tiniest anchor in a ridiculous storm. What would you do if the evidence landed in your lap at midnight? When I finally called Jay, he didn't stall. "Look, I've seen them talk outside after close. Nothing obvious, but it wasn't strictly business." He paused. "You didn't hear that from me." My heart hammered in my ears. I pictured the backdoor alley with the smell of spilled beer and old limes. The flicker of the exit sign. I asked the only question that mattered. "Is it real?" He exhaled. "Yeah. Looks real." My breath shook. I stared at the glow of my phone in the dark room and thought about the choices people make when they think you'll stay quiet. And that was the moment I decided I wouldn't. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the glow from my phone on the ceiling, the chat still open, like a wound that refused to close. Every time I scrolled back, I noticed new details, a timestamp matching my double shift, her message saying, "She's covering late, so we're safe." Safe. That word hit like glass in my chest. And that was the moment I realized. They'd been doing this from day one. NNBY sunrise. My apartment smelled like stale tequila and lemon rinds from the night before. I kept pacing the kitchen barefoot, the tile cold under my feet, replaying every conversation Mara ever had with me. "Without me, you're nothing. It's for your own good. You're too sensitive." The phrases looped like a playlist I couldn't turn off. My hands shook when I made coffee. Even the smell made me nauseous. I didn't know if I was angry, humiliated, or just numb. Maybe all three. And I texted Alex at 9 a.m. "We need to talk," NHE replied, "Busy morning." Later? Later never came. NNSO. I went to work. Because what else was I supposed to do? Quit and sit at home crying while my boss and my fiancé text each other heart emojis? Not happening. When I walked into the club that evening, everything looked the same. The gold light on the bottles, the hum of the fridges, the distant bass from the VIP lounge. But it all felt different. Everyone's smiles looked faker. The air smelled like disinfectant and lies. I kept my head down, pretending to polish glassware, waiting for Mara to appear. And she did, wearing a white linen blazer that probably cost more than my rent. "Rough night?" she asked, eyes scanning me like I was a stain she couldn't place. "Just tired," I said. NSHE leaned in close. Close enough for me to smell grapefruit and smoke. "You've been distant lately. Don't forget who put you here." NTHAT line broke something in me. I nodded, smiled like a good employee, and whispered, "Don't worry, I won't." NTHAT was the moment I started planning, and I called Jay on my break. The noise outside the club was chaos. Scooters, shouting tourists, the smell of rain and hot asphalt. But his voice cut through like static. "If you're gonna do something," he said, "do it smart." He'd worked there longer than anyone. He knew where the security footage backed up, who had access, what got archived before deletion. "You don't need a scandal," he said. "You need proof. Neat one, proof." That word was like oxygen.nnso for the next few nights. I kept quiet, but my phone wasn't. Every break, I was documenting chat screenshots, timestamps, receipts, even her schedule reminders that somehow matched Alex's Uber trips. Each one felt like pulling a splinter. And then the universe delivered me a gift. The TikTok kept spreading. It wasn't just anonymous anymore. Someone matched the club wallpaper in the background of one screenshot, those ridiculous gold palm prints, and tagged the location. People in the comments guessed names. The club's Yelp reviews turned into gossip threads. Miami boss romance scandal. Forbidden love drama in luxury bar. And I could feel the walls shake before management even said a word. And on Friday, Mara gathered the staff in the back room, her tone sharp but fake calm. "We're experiencing a smear campaign," she said. "If anyone here's involved, you're risking your career." Her eyes flicked to me. "I trust my loyal people." NTHE sound of the ice machine in the corner filled the silence. I stared at the silver lid, my reflection trembling in the metal. And that was the moment I realized. She wasn't afraid of the scandal. She was afraid of losing control. After the meeting, Jay slipped me a USB stick. "You didn't get this from me," he said. "It's last week's hallway cam. She met him by the service door. Audio's trash, but you can see enough. And I plugged it into my laptop at 2 a.m. The video was grainy, the lighting low, but it was them. Mara and Alex, faces close, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. The audio caught fragments, "She doesn't know," and then laughter. That was it. The moment everything snapped into place. And I could have sent it to HR, I could have confronted her at work. But I'd watched enough power plays in this city to know how that ends. The girl gets labeled unstable. The boss cries defamation, and the fiancé pretends it's complicated. So instead, I went digital.nnjay connected me with his cousin, a Reddit mod. We drafted a post for r/workplace revenge, careful to blur names in geotags. Title: My boss said I'd be nothing without her. Turns out she was sleeping with my fiancé. Within an hour, it was climbing the feed. Comments flooded an classic manipulation cycle. She thought you'd stay quiet. Post the receipts. So I did. Piece by piece. Nothing explicit, just enough context. NNTHE story hit the For You page by morning. The club's Instagram turned off comments. Management temporarily suspended. Mara pending investigation. Alex's LinkedIn went private, and to me, I was suddenly the anonymous bartender in the viral Miami scandal. NNTHAT was the moment I realized silence wasn't my safety. It was her weapon. The next few days felt like living inside a glitch. Everyone at the club pretended nothing had happened, but their eyes said otherwise. Conversations stopped when I walked by. Even the barback, who never remembered my name, suddenly called me girl. The smell of citrus and sanitizer clung to everything. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't invisible anymore. Mara didn't show up for 3 shifts. Rumor was she was on leave. Management avoided details, but we all knew what that meant. Someone even whispered she'd gone to HR, claiming, quote, emotional harassment. I couldn't help but laugh. Emotional harassment? From the woman who told me, without me, you'd be nothing? The irony was strong enough to choke on, and I wasn't fired. Yet, but I was told to take a few personal days while they sorted things out. Corporate language always sounds like air freshener, clean words masking the stink. I went home, sat on my couch surrounded by half-packed boxes and empty takeout containers, and finally opened Alex's messages again. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted to see an apology. What I got was a single text. You ruined everything, NNNO context. No, sorry. Just blame. That's when I laughed out loud. The kind of laugh that sounds more like a sob. Because of course it was my fault he cheated. Because I found out. Because I wouldn't stay quiet. NNTHAT night, the story exploded again. Some true crime TikTok creator made a video essay titled, The Miami Mixer Scandal, Power, Lies, and a Bartender's Revenge. I didn't watch the whole thing, but the thumbnail was my bar counter. The comments went wild. She's a legend. Girl boss energy. Revenge served chilled. It was surreal. And kind of gross. People were cheering like it was entertainment. But for me, it wasn't content. It was my real life and it still hurt like hell. NNTHE next morning, Jay called. You good? He asked. I don't know, I said. Listen, he continued. Someone from HR might contact you. Don't delete anything. Save screenshots. You did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. The words felt nice, but hollow. Because doing nothing wrong doesn't mean you win. It just means you survive the fallout. NNTWO days later, HR emailed me. We're conducting an internal review and may request a statement. And I stared at the screen. Every email like that sounds polite, but what it really means is, choose your words carefully. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I went for a walk down to the beach, phone in hand, keychain in my pocket. The shaker charm was cool against my thumb. The smell of salt and sunscreen hit like nostalgia. Miami's sunsets always look fake. Orange bleeding into violet, waves licking the sand. For a second, I let myself breathe. NNTHAT was when a group of college kids walked by, one of them whispering, "That's her, the bartender from TikTok." I pretended not to hear, but inside, I burned. I wanted to vanish, to delete every trace, every post, every piece of me that turned into someone else's gossip. But it was too late. The story had outgrown me. Later that evening, Alex called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity is a stubborn disease. "What do you want?" I said. NHE sighed. "You humiliated me. You could have talked to me first." And I froze. "You could have not slept with my boss." NHE didn't deny it. He just said, "It wasn't serious. She said you'd overreact." And that was the moment I realized exactly who they both were. There's a kind of clarity that feels like burning. I told him, "You deserve each other." Then I hung up. Simple, quiet, no screaming, no closure, just finality. NNTHE next day, the club posted an official statement. "We have zero tolerance for inappropriate relationships between management and staff." Translation: Mara was gone. Permanently. Alex deleted his socials. My phone kept buzzing with DMs. Strangers calling me brave, others calling me dramatic. The internet always splits the jury. And then, an unexpected email arrived from a new rooftop lounge opening in Brickell. They'd seen my story and wanted me as a lead mixologist. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't the apology I wanted. It wasn't justice, but it was something else, maybe a start. And still, I couldn't shake the irony. The thing that almost broke me was the same thing that got me noticed. And that was the moment I knew. Sometimes exposure isn't destruction. It's rebirth in disguise. Starting over felt strange. The new bar was nothing like the old one. Open rooftop, soft house music instead of bass drops, bartenders who actually said, "Please." Still, every time I lifted a shaker, I heard Mara's voice in my head. "Without me, you're nothing." It's wild how an insult can echo longer than applause. NNTHE first week in Brickell, people kept recognizing me. A couple on vacation asked, "Aren't you that Miami bartender from the TikTok scandal?" I smiled, said not anymore, then poured their drinks. The smell of mezcal still made my stomach twitch, but I learned to hide it behind lime and ice. That was the moment I realized healing isn't clean. It's messy, and sometimes it tastes like smoke. NNJAY checked in every few days. "You're trending again?" He'd text, like it was a weather report. I tried not to care, but curiosity always wins. One night, I searched my name. The posts were endless. Boss romance gone wrong. Forbidden love drama turned justice. My story had turned into a morality play for strangers. People debated whether I was brave or reckless. No one asked how it felt to lose both your boss and your fiancé in the same week. And yet, a small part of me liked the power reversal. For once, their words weren't the final version of events. Mine were. That was the moment I realized I wasn't powerless anymore. NNBUT power doesn't erase pain. The first Saturday rush at the new place, a song from my old club came on. Same tempo, same beat. My hand slipped. A glass hit the floor, shattered. The sound snapped me back to that staff party. Her toast. The laughter. I froze until someone behind me said, "You okay?" I nodded. Just flashbacks. Everyone laughed, thinking I meant PTSD from tequila spills. I didn't correct them. NNTHAT night, when the shift ended, I stayed late wiping the bar. The lights dimmed to gold. My reflection stared back at me in the steel counter. Older, harder, but still me. The keychain charm dangled from my wrist. I rolled it between my fingers, thinking about deleting everything, wiping my digital fingerprints clean. But Jay had once said, "Don't delete truth." He was right. You can't erase what you already lived through. NNTWO weeks later, the club I'd worked at made the local news. The headline, "Luxury night spot under fire after internal misconduct allegations." They didn't name names, but anyone who knew Miami nightlife could connect the dots. I watched the clip with popcorn and disbelief. Mara was officially no longer employed. HR claimed corrective measures. No apology, no mention of staff victims. Just legal phrasing and fake smiles. And NA Lex texted again that night. "I heard about Mara. You got what you wanted." I stared at the screen. The nerve and I typed back. All I ever wanted was honesty. NHE didn't respond. NNTHAT was the moment I realized some people only love you if you stay small. NNBY then. My Reddit post had turned into a thread with thousands of comments. People asked for updates, theories, revenge ideas. One message stood out. "Your story helped me quit my toxic boss. Thanks." That hit hard. I'd been drowning in shame, and somehow my survival became someone else's permission slip. Maybe that's what healing actually looks like, turning pain into proof that it's survivable. Still, nights were complicated. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to phantom notifications, heart pounding, expecting another leak, another video. But it was just silence. The city outside buzzed like static. I'd sit by the window, smell the salt air, and remind myself, "You're out. You're safe." Then one night, scrolling half asleep, I saw a new account pop up on Reddit. U/former club manager. It was her. Mara. She wrote a wall of text about betrayal and false accusations, claiming she was the real victim. The comments tore her apart, but I didn't reply. For once, I didn't need to. The truth was already louder than her lies, and NTHAT was the moment I knew revenge doesn't always need noise. Sometimes silence is the loudest mic drop. When my next shift started, I took the shaker charm off my keys. I placed it on the bar right next to the fresh lime wedges and left it there. A clean break in NTHE rooftop breeze hit my face. The city lights below looked small and distant, like memories that had lost their power. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a headline. I just felt human. And that was enough. A month later, everything slowed down. The noise faded. The hashtags stopped updating. The internet had moved on to the next shiny scandal. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't part of the algorithm. I was just me, a girl behind a bar, pouring drinks for strangers, and trying to trust silence again. That was the moment I realized peace doesn't go viral. One Friday night, near closing, a woman slid onto one of my stools. Designer blazer, perfect manicure, face I knew too well from old nights under neon. Mara. My stomach dropped. She looked thinner, her hair darker, like she'd dyed it to outrun her own reflection. "Anne, I just wanted to talk," she said. Her voice was softer, but still carried that managerial tone, the one that always made everyone else shrink. And I took a breath, grabbed a towel, and wiped the counter instead of answering. The smell of citrus hung heavy between us. "You ruined my life," she said finally. And I looked up. "You ruined your own." NSHE flinched, then tried to smile. "You always were dramatic," and I almost laughed. The audacity. Even now, she couldn't take responsibility. NNTHAT was the moment I realized some people never apologize. They just rebrand their guilt as your attitude. NNSHE left without ordering. I watched her reflection vanish into the elevator glass, the shaker charm glinting faintly on the shelf behind me. I didn't touch it. That chapter was sealed. After that night, something shifted. The staff treated me differently. Not like gossip, but like proof that you could survive the worst kind of betrayal and still clock in on time. My new manager, Sophia, pulled me aside one shift. "You've got presence," she said. "Ever thought of training bartenders?" And I laughed. "You want me to teach people how to survive corporate heartbreak?" NSHE grinned. "No, I want you to teach them control. You're unshakable." Unshakable. The irony wasn't lost on me, but maybe she was right. NNBY the end of the month, I was managing my own bar team. I built new rules. No late night texts. No family talk from bosses. No blurred lines. I told my crew, "We're colleagues, not confessions." They laughed, but they listened. And that was the moment I realized, maybe you can rewrite the system, one boundary at a time. And NJAY came by one night for a drink. "Look at you," he said, scanning the rooftop view. Full circle. And I poured him a mezcal old-fashioned, irony included. "You ever think about posting an update?" he asked, and I shrugged. "Maybe someday, but I don't need to prove anything now." NHE smiled. "That's growth." Still, when he left, I scrolled through Reddit one last time. My old post was archived. Locked, but alive. Thousands of comments frozen in time. I reread the top one. "Sometimes karma just needs a Wi-Fi connection." I smiled. "Yeah, sometimes it does." A few weeks later, a journalist emailed me about writing an article. Women in Nightlife, the power behind the bar. She wanted to include my story, real names, full details. I said no. Not because I was scared, but because I was done being a story someone else could edit. I told my truth once. That was enough. One night, as the shift ended, I stepped onto the rooftop patio. The city hummed below, traffic, laughter, ocean breeze, the usual Miami soundtrack. I closed my eyes. For the first time in months, my heartbeat didn't race when my phone buzzed. It was just Jay texting a meme about revenge served on draft. I laughed out loud. It felt good to laugh without irony. I took the shaker charm out of my bag. It was scratched and dull now, the metal cold against my palm. I walked to the edge, over the railing, and let it fall into the dark. The sound was small, a soft click swallowed by wind, but it felt like closure. NNTHAT was the moment I knew the story was finally mine again. Now I pour drinks, not secrets. I still flinch when someone says, "It's for your own good," but I also know I'll never mistake control for care again. And sometimes, when I wipe down the bar and the lights go low, I wonder how many people out there are still swallowing the same lies I did. Still believing silence keeps them safe. NNSO, tell me honestly. NIF, you found out your boss was sleeping with your partner. And then the whole internet was ready to listen. Would you stay quiet or hit post?